Chapter 12. Snore You Later. Race you to the corner store, Philippa called after school, then took off on her bike. Dawn hesitated, unsure if she should go. The dark fairy wanted her spinning wheel back. The strange coincidence of Kaylee and Stephanie having the same dream unsettled her. She remembered the deal she'd made with Maleficent to punish Leah for excluding her from the birthday party. The dark fairy must have unleashed the sleeping curse on the kids, even though it sounded far-fetched. It was the only explanation for everything that had happened. But what could Dawn do about it? All the other kids were better already, and Leah was sure to wake up and come around any day now. The curse seemed to have a time limit and wear off, based on the kids making full recoveries. Plus, the wheel was about to get auctioned off. Her aunts needed to sell it to save their shop. Worse yet, the spinning wheel was locked up in a safe. How could she get it out? But there was more to her reluctance. She had a bad feeling about returning the wheel. What would the fairy do if she actually got it back? Dawn remembered Maleficent saying something about how the wheel had been stolen long before and how losing it had weakened her powers. What if the dark fairy got stronger? So then, wasn't it better if it got sold off to a buyer far away? "You're on," Dawn called back. Having come to a decision, there was nothing she could do about the fairy and the wheel. "And no fair. You got a head start," she added. She chased after Philippa, who had raced ahead. Dawn's bike wobbled and squeaked. Luckily, the corner store was on the way to Spindles and Things. Dawn caught up to Philippa as they both careered into the town center. They squealed to a stop at the corner drugstore, Castletown Pharmacy. Dawn swallowed hard as her eyes fell on the cheerful red awning with a castle logo. She remembered how she had gotten caught shoplifting at a place like this back in the big city. Well, not shoplifting, but helping those who were. Criminal. The taunt echoed through her head, but she pushed back against it. Not anymore, she thought. I've changed. I would never do that again or break any laws. "Candy time?" Philippa said. "Hey, Earth to Dawn, come in. Are you there?" That snapped her out of her thoughts. Dawn forced a smile. "Chocolate. Yes, please." They placed their bikes in the rack on the sidewalk, no need for locks, then headed into the shop. The door let out a cheerful ring as they entered. The store was small and a bit old-fashioned, but it sported modern medicines and brands. A handful of other shoppers browsed the aisles, selecting items from the well-stocked shelves and placing them in their shopping baskets. They looked over as the two girls trotted into the store and grabbed candy. Dawn felt their eyes on her. She had that familiar dread that they'd find out about her past, or worse, that they'd already knew what she'd done to get sent away. Everyone in Castletown knew each other, so if they didn't recognize someone, that turned heads your way as well. The kindly shopkeeper, an older man with thinning hair, greeted them. "Howdy, ladies," Mr. Crawley called out. "How can I help you?" "Candy," Philippa said. "We need some stat. Also, my pop says to tell you hello and refill his meds. He'll stop by after work." "Will do, and holla back at him, will ya?" Mr. Crawley said, then busied himself behind the checkout counter. "Tell him we're overdue for a fishing trip." "Yes, sir," Philippa said. "Pops loves getting out on that lake." "Sure does," Mr. Crawley said. "Not that he ever catches anything. At least, not that's edible." He let out a chuckle, then turned to Dawn. "Oh, and who's your friend here?" "I'm Dawn," she replied. "Nice to meet you. I moved in with my aunts down the road. Mary and Fleur? The shopkeeper started to rub his eyes and yawn. Oh, dear. Pardon me. What was that? He said in a sleepy voice. Mary and Fleur? Dawn tried again. I'm living with my aunts. His eyelids drooped. Then he started awake. Your aunts? Those old gals? Yeah, I'm here for the rest of the semester. But then Dawn trailed off. The shopkeeper tipped his head forward, leaning onto the counter, and started snoring loudly. He was fast asleep. Mr. Crawley? Philippa said. She leaned over and nudged his shoulder. He startled and gasped. Oh, my. Where am I? What's happening? You're at work, Philippa said. You fell asleep. Oh, dear. So sorry, he said. I don't know what's gotten into me. His eyes shifted to Dawn. He blinked at her without any hint of recognition. Oh, and who's your friend here? I'm Dawn, she repeated herself. I moved in with... Before she could finish, the shopkeeper dozed off on his feet. His chin rested on his chest. Dawn swept her gaze around the store, seeing the other customers clutching wired shopping baskets and looking at them with curious expressions. She made eye contact with each of them before turning back to the snoring shopkeeper. Mr. Crawley? Philippa prodded him awake again. He blinked at Philippa, then looked at Dawn with a puzzled expression. Oh, sorry about that. What were you saying? Dear, who is your new friend here? Again, he'd completely forgotten who Dawn was. It was like a loop. Dawn tried to answer him again, and again he fell asleep on his feet, snoring away. A chill crept up her spine, freezing her. Suddenly, Dawn heard more snoring coming from behind them. Oh no, she thought. Slowly, Dawn turned and gazed around the pharmacy. Every customer in there had dozed off, on their feet. Snores echoed throughout the shop as the customers slept upright, still clutching their shopping baskets and bags. What the heck? Philippa said. Wow, think they caught the virus too? But Dawn was already backing away from her friend. She had a feeling that she knew what was causing this, and it wasn't a virus. It was her. It was the sleeping curse from the dark fairy. Not only that, but clearly it was growing stronger. She had to get out of there before she got her friends sick too. Sorry. I'm late for work, Dawn stammered, backing away. She looked down to avoid making eye contact with Philippa. I've got to go. Hey, wait, Philippa called after her. But Dawn was already out the door before Philippa could finish. She grabbed her bike and looked back into the shop. Slowly, one by one, the shoppers woke up from their unintentional naps. They returned to browsing as if nothing had happened. Meanwhile, it took Mr. Crowley the longest to come around. Philippa nudged him a few times, and Dawn found herself worried he'd never wake up. But finally he startled to attention, looking bewildered. He quickly turned back to normal, interacting with Philippa and checking out the other shoppers. But Dawn felt sick to her stomach. It seemed that everyone she made eye contact with fell asleep. It didn't matter where they were or what they were doing. Dawn pedaled as fast as she could toward the antique shop. She kept her eyes down, focused on the pavement in front of her. If drivers coming in contact with her fell asleep while on the road, well, she didn't even want to think about that. One question tormented her. How was she going to make it stop?